I don't think there has been any other game in history that has been glazed and hyped up as much as Outerwilds. Years go by and the noise never stops. Every single review, video, comment that I have seen on this game has said it is an out-of-body, life-changing experience. That your day-to-day will never be the same once you come in contact with the enlightening masterpiece that this title is. So I bought it, and decided to see if the praise was worth it. There's no way it can be that good, right? Loading up and playing Outerwilds for the very first time, I had no idea what I was doing. Most video games I play, I have a vague idea of what I'm about to get into. From it being an open world, an RPG, a shooter, something 2D, I have expectations of what I'm about to play because I've played games like them. But Outerwilds is a different story. You probably had a very similar experience to me, as every single person says you have to go into this game completely blind and know nothing about it. Nothing? At least tell me the premise.
No.
Okay, fine. What's the story about?
No.
There's no way everything is a spoiler. The only thing I knew about this title was that it's in space. And I've played a few space games here and there in the past. I'm no rookie at this, I thought. Oh, how wrong I was. This game gave me a rude awakening. Going from being unable to jump, getting my memory stolen by some statue, crashing into a moon, and lastly flying into a black hole as the sun explodes? What is this game? I thought I was gonna be having this fun little space adventure. This is the opposite of fun. I look back at that first loop with such joy because it encapsulates the journey of this game, even though I didn't feel that way in the moment. If you're not confused through heavy portions of your time with Outerwilds, you did something wrong. Or maybe I'm just stupid. But the curiosity and wonder that this game brings is one of its best aspects, but it's also one of its biggest hurdles. The first few loops of Outerwilds is a make or break time period for all players. Sometimes that lack of direction is too much, the confusion is too great, and you are left bored, unable to get into the game. Because, especially early on, dying feels like a wall that cuts off your progress and you have to do it all over again. And you don't even know what you're actually doing. But I promise that you just have to stick with it. Which is probably bad advice and the only advice you get from fans of this game.
Oh, just keep playing, keep playing. You'll get it eventually. We can't tell you anything about the game, but we promise it's good.
Yeah, it's probably not that helpful actually, now that I think about it. I understand the frustration the early game brings because I went through it. I became best friends with the black hole and the opposite side of the universe the amount of times I died to it. But in the end, the biggest roadblock for me is what became its greatest strength. The more I played this title, the more I fell in love with it because it provoked something in me that I've rarely ever felt from a video game before. Off the top of my head, only one other title has achieved this feeling for me, and that is Minecraft. I don't even know how to necessarily put the emotion into words, but it's a childlike wonder, the deep desire to explore and discover, unravel secrets of the world, coming up with the most random ideas and theories to try out. Playing Minecraft back in the day, damn, what was it, 15 years ago? It was surreal. No game was ever able to replicate this wonder and sandbox experience. Every new world created, offering endless possibilities. The limit was truly your imagination. Of course, Outerwilds functionally is different from Minecraft in most ways, but at its core, it's exploration and discovery. Learning about the solar system you are in through embarking on journeys to all these other planets, unraveling the secrets of a civilization before yours. You get in your ship, you explore, you eventually die, and wake up staring at the stars and do it all over again. A lot of times. For a game so focused on this aspect of exploration, they have to do it well or you'd lose interest. After a few loops of nothing continuing to pull you in for more, you'd be saying, what's the point? But Outerwilds is able to achieve probably the best exploration I've ever seen from a video game before, and it's for every imaginable reason. Firstly, you need some sort of goal. At some point, blindly exploring will fail you and you will lose interest or desire to keep playing. The first few loops for me when I started exploring was that exact experience. I was just traversing Burrow Hollow trying to figure out what was up with the solar system, and when the sun exploded on my first loop, it didn't click for me. But after a few more loops of that event occurring, it all made sense. The sun was always going to explode no matter what I did. I was going to die every single loop. I came to the conclusion that I am in this loop to stop this sun from going supernova. And there I had it. I had my motivation, my goal, what I was going to strive for the remainder of my time in this solar system. And exploring this solar system to achieve said goal was a lot scarier and harder than I was expecting it to be. This game gives you 0 objectives besides the first few moments on Timber Hearth to go collect your launch codes. Besides that, you have all the freedom to play how you want to. You get to decide what you get to do every single loop. In a time and place where handholding is fairly prevalent in gaming, it's beautiful to see a title challenge you and put expectations on the player themselves to find out what they should do. There's no clues, no player talking to themselves to give you hints, no objective markers or glowing trail. All you have is you and the universe. And with this lack of hand-holding and direction from the game, you will fail over and over again. There were loops I would fly into the sun, run out of fuel, go to a new planet for the first time, and regret that I ever did. Failure was inevitable. This solar system was scary, completely filled with mysteries and mechanics unknown to the player, and it is our job to uncover them. Okay, maybe not like that. Sci-fi worlds in gaming are not an uncommon thing. If anything, they're fairly popular. But one aspect they all fail to replicate is space travel and exploration. Space in of itself is a complicated avenue to go down for a video game because how do you keep a player engaged? Giving points of interests. How big should the planets be? Do we use fast travel or have everything work real time? Outerwilds answers all those questions and succeeds in achieving them. Space travel feels real, from the controls being janky and difficult to learn, landing not being some given simple task, as you have to worry about the planet's orbit, the velocity you're flying in at, the planets themselves being dense with content and not overly big to traverse through, and there not being a single loading screen ever in this game. They make space feel like this grand and scary thing, which usually games can't do. I'm terrified of getting near the sun and burning up to it. The black hole is daunting. Being left out in deep space feels empty. Our scale compared to all things around us is so vast and different that it helps create that feeling that we are so minuscule and small compared to the scale of the universe. I don't think a game will ever replicate the feeling of being in space the way that Outerwilds does. But one of the very few complaints that I hear towards this game is its clunky gameplay mechanics, which I just mentioned. People find practically every control involving movement in this game to be janky and difficult to learn. And sure, I agree that they are, but I can't help but disagree in the fact that it's an issue. I think these difficult mechanics add to the journey and experience of Outerwilds. There is this major learning curve at the start of the game, but as you get farther along, these difficult mechanics slowly become second nature. After going through Dark Bramble later in the game, my flying and landing was seamless. As you gained knowledge on the controls, they just became easier. Don't get me wrong though, it would be early game and I would be incapable of landing on a planet. Those were some dark times. But I believe it added to the curiosity of the world. If traversing was easy, I think it would diminish the wonder of these planets. Trying to traverse through dark brambles, anglerfish, or giant deeps tornadoes would not be the same if there wasn't this layer of fear with having difficult controls. You could compare it to a Souls game. If the boss fight was easy, it would lose its charm, and I think the same applies to Outerwilds exploration. But from the lack of direction, janky mechanics, they do all build into the exploration as a whole. But the cherry on top that truly separates it from any other game I've played in terms of exploration is one word. And that is knowledge. Technically, you could beat Outerwilds on your very first loop. You have all the means of doing so from the moment you get those launch codes and embark into the solar system for the very first time. The only reason no one does is because they don't know how to. You are required to learn about the world around you to eventually go and do more things. One planet will give you information on how to get to this area on another planet that you weren't sure how to previously. At its core, Outerwilds is somewhat similar to a roguelike. I'm playing Hades 2 right now for the first time, and I'm having an absolute blast playing it. That game functions in the same way that you die and go back to the start of your run. You then get new weapons, better keepsakes to boost your player, incantations to unlock new features, more arcanas to obtain more strength. Hades, you go through these loops to obtain more power, while Outerwilds, you're obtaining knowledge. Very few games do this. Many titles I play, on some level, I'm able to turn my brain off a bit. The game is there to entertain me, to have a good time, telling me what I should be doing. Outerwilds breaks every single rule regarding that. It never once tries to convince you to play it. If anything, it makes it more appealing to stop early on. It plants questions to the player and is up to us to uncover those answers. Outerwilds was always existing. The world never changes loop to loop for the most part. There's no path that you must unlock this said area or some upgrade to reach this unexplored location. The only thing you lack is the knowledge to do so. The game is completely in your hands. Every decision I made was up to me. From following this trail of clues, spending a loop just floating in space trying to find a new lead. All of it was my choice. And by the time you reach the end of the game, you realize that this was always here, just waiting for us to find it. Gain enough knowledge to connect the lines on your ship log and to reach the conclusion of this journey. But through this adventure we go on, the main way that we end up uncovering knowledge and lore about the solar system is through text that we must transcribe of an ancient civilization that lived here before us. Every planet we go to, we find proof of life predating ours, and reading these texts is honestly a major portion of the experience of Outerwilds. We get to learn the history of the Nomai and what happened to them. Typically, reading text or finding audio logs in video games amounts to more lore or some world building. But here is the most crucial aspect to progressing through this title. Almost every single wall of text you find will give you some sort of clue to help you out, which makes every inch of every planet worth exploring. There was never a moment where I got a new ship log and thought to myself, well, that was useless. Every piece of information was needed or useful in some way. So often in open world games, at some point you somewhat streamline your experience. The loot becomes less useful to pick up, points of interest start repeating themselves on some skill, or you've simply just had your fill of exploration. But for Outerwilds, every piece of information you can find is needed to gain more knowledge. And along with all this information being gained, we are still learning about the world at hand. For a title that gives us very little direction at the start, one of the very few leads or ideas they give us are the Nomai. This was a technologically advanced civilization that existed in our solar system before us. But they're no longer here. So one of the mysteries of this title is to uncover what happened to them. And through all these texts and different planets we explore, we learn more about their existence. Environmental storytelling is a very common thing to see within games. From titles like BioShock, Skyrim, Fallout, Silent Hill 2. It is a common path games go down to expand on some of the world and story of different locations as you explore. From finding a skeleton in a cave with a note explaining how it got there. Audio logs to learn more about Rapture and the lore behind it. Outerwilds takes this to a whole other level as the entire experience is the environment. That's what the story is. This game would not exist without it. Every single planet we go to, we are at the hands of the environment. The climate, gravity, a limited amount of time. Every single aspect that you could talk about regarding Outerwilds revolves around its setting. We are at the mercy of this solar system. We will always end up dying to it at some point, but at the same time, it's the only place we can gain knowledge as well. The universe starts off as something very scary, to be honest. Every single planet is a place that is unknown to us, probably having something on it that will kill us. There was a level of stress throughout many hours of my time with this game, and can you blame me?
I'm given a 22-minute time loop to figure out as much as possible and make as much progress as I can. Going into these terrifying locations where tornadoes shoot you into the solar system, black holes consume you and the planet, a location where you can barely see in front of you surrounded by enemies ready to eat you if you make a noise, along with the constant thinking and trying to connect the clues and figure out my next step.
It was a lot. But it's like the game knew you would feel this way. My favorite quote from Outerwilds is this one right here. As a child, I considered such unknowns sinister. Now though, I understand they bear no ill will. The universe is, and we are. All this unease I had to these planets for killing me more times than I could count eventually went away. I stopped rushing through trying to go as fast as possible. There were loops I would be sat at a campfire just trying to think how I can get this next clue. Landing on planets and just walking about seeing what I can find. All the obstacles of these planets became second nature. I would reach the supernova more often than not. I wouldn't get annoyed I was dying anymore. I would just get back into my ship and go to the next spot. Outerwilds teaches you it's okay not to know. Funny for a game that's progress is purely tied behind that, but it works so hard for the player to realize that not every loop needs to be the success. The amount of times I died and thought, wow, I did not do a single thing, was more than I could count. But those loops inevitably led me to figuring it out. In a day and age where instant gratification is so prevalent, we can be entertained with a single swipe on TikTok or Instagram. Even in video games sometimes, we are very quickly fed information so we don't have to sit and think things through. Here though, the satisfaction comes from solving the mystery you spent the last few loops trying to solve. The joy I would feel when I finally figure something out is something I've rarely felt from a game before. The same feeling you get being a difficult boss was here when you solved a confusing location. Some of the clues I would be aimlessly shooting my probe around and randomly realize what I had to do. There was so much trial and error, but that's what made the inevitable realization all that more satisfying. This type of feeling in storytelling could only ever be done in a video game. There are very few titles out there that I think could have only been done in the form of gaming media, and Outerwilds is one of them. You could never truly retell the journey and experience of this title without simply playing it yourself. The full scope of emotions could never be portrayed in a show or something like that, because the most crucial and important component of this game is that you are the one going through the loops. You are the one learning about the world around you, going through the ups and downs of solving these mysteries. The core of Outerwilds is the knowledge that you as the player are gaining. The experience of this title is so personal, and makes me proud to be a video game lover, because no other form of media could achieve this. I just love when you play a game and it really shows how much of a game it is, and the developers wanted to maximize the storytelling capabilities that only gaming could achieve. Throughout all our travels and journeys, the endless amount of loops, successes, and failures, we reach the final sequence of this game. This moment comes in my second to last loop of Outerwilds. I was truly at the end. I was able to get inside of the Ash Twin project and access the core of it. I pulled it out and had to figure out what to do next. But in my journey trying to find the path to take, I realized something. Probably later than I should have, but still. Once I removed the core, I realized, wait, this isn't saving the sun. All I'm doing is finally ending the loop. Even though previously through the sun station, I learned that the sun had simply reached the end of its life cycle, and that the sun station failed to force it into a supernova. One of my biggest goals in motivators was suddenly taken away. All these loops, deaths, revelations, discoveries were not to save the universe and sun at all. We go through the ending and make it to the eye of the universe. We collect all our friends and play music around a campfire one final time as we observe a new universe being created. The same campfire I sat at countless times roasting marshmallows, taking in the universe around me, one final time stopping and smelling the pine trees. Outerwilds, without me even realizing it, was teaching me the message of this game. How I grew to take things slower, not trying to rush to the end. Appreciating the universe around me as I gathered clues, becoming familiar with the locations, making friends with the other Hearthians. The entire time we were trying to prevent the end of the universe, but the whole game was training us to accept it, accepting the inevitable end. The same way we started to accept our deaths from each loop, we accept the end now. That's not something to fear, but simply the proof we existed in the first place. For something to have an end, it needed to have a beginning and to exist, and that is beautiful in of itself. When I first started playing Outerwilds, I was unsure what I was getting into. Everyone claimed this game was a masterpiece, it was life-changing, and I was unsure how it was going to do that. From launching into space during my first loop to sitting around the campfire that final time, I was constantly challenged. This was one of the most beautiful and unique gaming experiences I've ever had. I've never seen a game use its medium so well to tell a story. Now, did the game change my life like many people said it would? No, it definitely did not change my life. I don't know, it just didn't move me in that regard. But this game did touch me emotionally, and on a gameplay scale, it's one of the most impressive I've ever seen. I honestly feel like it's groundbreaking. I've never played a game with such perfect exploration. It's easily the best game I played this year so far, and all it took was 22 minutes.